This video is sponsored by Bourbon by Bath & Body Works because I'm gonna need some when I'm done with this video.
Something that I simply just did not understand is how, as a society, we have agreed to just let airlines get away with scamming people. So I'm at the airport checking in for my flight, as per usual, and I put my bag on the scale before checking in. She goes, "Ooh, sorry, babe, it's 51 pounds, it's gonna be $100. I said, "You can't just let it slide, please?" She goes, "No, sorry, it's overweight, you're gonna have to pay $100 or take something out." I said, "Absolutely not am I paying $100 for this." So I unzipped my bag, I removed one pair of socks, one sole pair of socks, and a straightening iron. Zip it back up, put it back on the scale, magically 49 pounds. I need my scale at home to lie to me like that because that is some bull. I could understand if it was like a gravity thing and they're like, "Oh, the bags are too heavy, so the plane is literally going to fall out of the sky." Like, obviously we don't want that to happen, but how could it be a gravity thing if the bags are still going on the plane? They're just below the plane as opposed to in the overhead compartment. It's still equally as heavy. It's not gonna tip over. Like, what the
Hello? Hi. Welcome. If it looks different behind me, there's a reason why. Not gonna talk about it in this video, but long story short, I have moved, but we're not talking about that right now. Welcome back. It's been a long time. Sorry I've been gone so long. Like I said, I will explain that soon. But today I am back because I was inspired to make a video, and the video I showed you earlier was of James Charles at an airport, which we'll get to that. But today I wanted to talk about some YouTube entitlement. But I haven't done my intro in a long time, so let me do this the right way. So here we go. Hey, what is up, everybody? Yes, I returned to your phone, your computer, your TV, your tablet, your laptop. I don't know what you're watching me on right now. You might be in the bathroom, on the toilet. If you are, make sure to wipe. But it's me, it's Malcolm, and today I've returned. We'll get to that in another video. But I was inspired, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, I was inspired to make a video. And this video could go on for hours because it's not just these people I'm about to talk about today. This whole thing, it goes deep. But I want to talk about some YouTuber entitlement. And I want to specifically stay to YouTubers because if I talk about TikTokers and YouTubers, we'd be here for 10 hours. Because, you know, partying during a panini was fun for all involved, apparently. We're not going to talk about that today, but I could, and maybe I should. Let me know in the comments below. I want to talk about YouTuber entitlement in the sense of these people feel like they can't be touched. They feel like they're never wrong. They feel like they're always the victim. And I wanted to pick 4 people that stood out to me either last year or recently that I wanted to talk about a little bit more if I haven't talked about before. I know for a fact one channel I have not really talked about, and that's going to be one of them is going to be the Ace family. So we're going to talk about the Ace family, and then in the next part I'm going to talk about Gabbie Hanna. I know, sorry, but Gabbie Hanna's entitlement goes deep. Like, when you really think about how long she's been this way, it probably won't surprise you because once I bring up the stuff, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, she's been like this for a while. Then of course, we're gonna talk about James Charles because again, that clip you saw earlier from the airport, I have words about that because I watch airplane documentaries all the time. So that rant actually kind of bothered me. And then lastly, the last person I covered on this channel, Creepshow Art, which, so many things I could say about her. We're gonna talk about her entitlement and just how she really thought she did nothing wrong and how she was the victim and everything. Yikes. I will do chapters again. If this setup is a little bit wonky, I apologize. I've been, you know, trying to figure out what I want to record. My girlfriend said I should film in the living room, but that's close to the door, and I don't want my neighbors to hear me rant for about 50 minutes because then I'll probably get a noise complaint, which do not want that. I will try filming in other places in this place. Like, I already saw my closet back there that's closed right now that I could probably film in there. So if you like this setup, just let me know. If you don't let me know. But let's get into this because I don't know how long this video is going to be. It might be short. It might just be like a rant style video. I really don't really have notes except like a few here and there. It's more so of a rant though. So first of all, let's talk about the definition of entitlement before we go any farther forward, because I think people do throw entitlement around a lot, but let's just make sure we all understand what it means for this video's purpose. Oxford Languages Dictionary states, entitlement is the fact of having a right to something, the amount to which a person has a right, or the belief that one is inherently deserving of privileges or special treatment. That's going to be the big one. Special treatment. Remember that. And without further ado, let's talk about the Ace family. So this is part one where we're going to talk about the Ace family, and we're not going to really go into like all their scams and all that, but I do want to highlight some things because the way they respond to criticism is pretty much like, how dare you call us out, like we know better than you kind of attitude. Some will say it's an elitist attitude. I think it's an entitled attitude. Maybe if you want to disagree with me in the comments below, you are free to do so. I'm not gonna really like be mad at you for giving your opinion, because at the end of the day, it's an opinion. And I really do think that some people need to calm down when people give opinions, because opinions don't mean yes or no, black or white, right or wrong. Opinions are still opinions at the end of the day. Just like mine. If you disagree, you disagree. Can't be mad at you. Where do I start with the Ace family? The Ace family has been a channel for a couple of years now. They're very prevalent in, of course, the family vlogging community because they have their kids, and they pretty much are a clickbait family vlog YouTube channel because they posted a couple of weeks ago about how it's the end of the Ace family, even though they posted 3 videos after that. I could talk about the basketball scam where Austin McBroom a couple years ago tried to have a basketball competition, only to then have his friend in the audience do the competition, even though he wasn't on the registry, and win it all and give his friend the money, and then lied about how much the ticket sales were. It was a whole thing. I could also talk about the Ace Family app where Austin was in charge of it, and he was trying to help his fans be social media stars, which that never worked. And then he tried to blame the people that made the app that he worked with for scamming his fans, like he couldn't take accountability for that. And more recently, I want to talk about how this whole thing with the house, blaming contractors for it going wrong, for it being nasty. And just to be clear, I'm not trying to make fun of the situation. I'm not trying to make like, you know, saying like anybody deserves to not have a house. But the way they went about flexing on people online, when they were called out about their house going on auction, saying everybody was being a hater and all that stuff, and like feeding this narrative that they were the victims in this whole situation when they know good and well that they were the ones doing wrong. And the fact that they had subjected their kids, not even them, their kids, to cold water for about 1.5 years. I just, that's a whole conversation for another day. So what makes this Ace family so entitled and so like above all, like probably one of the most annoying channels out there right now? Well, think about it this way. Anytime the Ace family is caught up in drama, they always say that, you know, the person's a hater, or like the people they're calling out are haters, or they don't have the full story. But if that's the case, then tell us the full story. And even when they try to tell us the full story, they leave out important details to make themselves sound like the victim, or try to make themselves sound right. And I think because of who they think they are like above criticism and deserve special treatment. in terms of criticism. I understand how frustrating it must be to be in the media and have your name dragged, but on the other hand, when you're the one scamming your fans, lying to your fans, lying about documents, not providing documents, and then trying to push all the blame of everything onto other people. Not to mention that whole boxing fiasco where Austin was also making money off of it, but also not making money off of it, while also his company was a part of the boxing event. That's a whole thing. You can definitely look at Soup's videos for that details, because that rabbit hole. Then the Snapchat stories from Catherine McBroom when she removed her own IUD, which I really don't want to get into it, but let's just say that she was called out about that, and then she basically said that, you know, people just want to see us fail, people are just hating on us, and when your only defense, mind you, if your only defense is everybody's a hater and everybody's a liar, then you have no defense. If you have valid rebuttals, then show the evidence. Like, you know, if you knew that your house, everything about your house had documents and paperwork, why didn't you show it the first time instead of just saying, oh guys, it's not true, even though there was a public auction for their house and it was recorded and posted online for people to see. Of course, they call everybody that calls them out haters, wants to see him fail, blah, 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 things like that. This section wasn't really long, but it was more so like, just watch how they act anytime they're in a scandal or they get called out. And even recently with their end of the Ace Family video, they are promoting another what seems like scam to me, which is a meet and greet where they don't even know the location, date, where, like, they don't know anything except how much it's gonna cost. And because people are questioning that, they're haters, because they really think, like, for some reason, they really think that people are gonna pay $300 to $700 for a meet and greet where they don't even know when it is or where it is. But because of who they are, they think that they have it figured out, and then they're saying, we're gonna have it figured out, just trust us. No thanks. No thank you. No thank you. There's a lot more that I could go in on the Ace Family about, but I really just wanted to focus on like a little bit of things, because if I went into a whole deep dive, this video would be way too long. But just know, and just pay attention next time, whenever they're called out about something, they just are like, everybody's a hater. Okay, I'm just saying, if the common denominator is the same, you might be the problem. I'm all done with the Ace Family, but we're gonna move on to the next person. And I think this next person I'm gonna talk about doesn't really need an introduction, but unfortunately, we are pivoting to Hanna, because this honestly has been a build-up from one situation and one situation alone. So let's talk about it. We are now in part 2, where we're gonna talk about Hanna, from one scandal that we're going to talk about very briefly, all the way until now, where she is a I don't even know what to call it. Let's just talk about this first. So let's talk about Hanna, okay? Hanna, I've talked about her many a times on this channel, to the point where Gabbie stands have blocked me and I've never interacted with them, which is fun. I just want to talk about one scandal, and once I mention it, you're gonna be like, okay, we're gonna start from there. If anybody remembers the Kenza Cosmetics scam, where it was a bunch of brushes, you didn't have to pay for the brushes, but you had to pay for shipping, and Hanna wasn't the only one promoting this, it was also Tana Mojo, but Hanna definitely got more flack because of like her status at the time. Little did we know that was going to be the start of someone who just thought she was above the rest. Once I list these things, you're like, okay, yeah, I see it. So let's talk about the most famous clip from that time when she was called out. We're going to talk about the Manage Your Expectations clip because I was a Gabbie Hanna fan at first until that clip. That one moment for me made me go, oh, that's the real Gabbie Hanna. So without further ado, because I love this clip so much, it's become a meme at this point, I'm going to play the clip for you one more time. Roll it.
And I'm genuinely sorry if anybody got their product and was disappointed in the product. But I would also add, manage your expectations a little bit.
Remember, everybody, we need to manage our expectations. The memes that came from that, glorious. So that was the beginning of like this entitled Gabbie Hanna attitude, okay? Next time I really felt like Gabbie Hanna had an entitled attitude was the shadow ban thing. And oh my God, this shadow ban rant went on for what it felt like weeks. It was probably days. I honestly don't remember anymore, but it felt like weeks upon months of Gabbie Hanna just coming at YouTube and just like, when people were calling her out saying, Gabbie Hanna, look girl, you're not shadow banned. It just, the flood of stands that were attacking people, Gabbie attacking people, it was not good. For those that don't remember, there was a point in time where Gabbie Hanna's views were down. Her subscription count wasn't going up as fast as it used to. So Gabbie Hanna went on a rant on Twitter saying that she was shadow banned. I remember this part specifically where T-Spill actually was trying to help Gabbie Hanna legitimately and try to figure out, you know, what's going on with Gabbie Hanna's channel. People were saying they could find it. Other people said they couldn't find it. People put incognito mode on just to see if they could find Gabbie Hanna's channel like regular, and some people showed proof that they could. And it turned into this whole thing about how Gabbie Hanna feels like YouTube is directly attacking her. And, you know, she said like, you know, she gave all these years to YouTube and they're not looking out for her, which of course is special treatment that she thought she deserved. Only to then come to the conclusion, and this is a conclusion Gabbie Hanna will never accept to this day, maybe people just didn't want to click on Gabbie Hanna's videos. Like, I think this was also the point in time, I could be wrong, maybe my timeline's off, I think this was the point in time where Gabbie was trying to transition into music, try to get more into music and things like that. And honestly, people just probably weren't interested, which is okay because sometimes when you transition from one genre of a style on your channel to another, some people aren't into it and they don't click. And I think Gabbie Hanna didn't understand that, and she probably thought because of who she was, that automatically that means she deserved this many views, and she was trying to calculate how many views she should be having and putting the blame on YouTube for not pushing her content out. But you have to think, recommendations are a like a click per view kind of thing. So meaning if her subscribers aren't clicking it, YouTube is thinking, hey, her own subscribers aren't clicking this video, we're not going to push this out, because if her people don't want to watch it, then nobody else will watch it. And I figured, to me, that's how the algorithm works in my opinion. I could be wrong, I'm not a YouTube expert, but I've started to figure out that if your own subscribers won't click the video, it can't get recommended to other people, which is why like smaller channels have a hard time building, because you have to basically hope your videos go viral. Like, I have been lucky, I'm not even gonna try to, you know, downplay or like hype up anything. I got lucky with a couple videos I've done. I've gained like a couple thousand here and there, so I'm like still thankful for that, but I don't think Gabbie Hanna understood that. So the whole shadow ban thing, I think she just will never understand that, hey, maybe because I transitioned to a different like thing, people just aren't clicking. And I don't think she understood that. Of course, how can we not forget the whole Jessie Smiles situation, which I don't want to go into too much detail because I've already made so many videos on that. But let's not forget with the whole Jessie Smiles situation where Gabbie Hanna felt like she was owed an apology. She felt like her YouTube views were taking a hit because of the situation that she herself put herself in. And again, because of Gabbie Hanna thinking of who she was, thought she just deserved to be treated differently, even though, again, you put yourself in a situation and you suffer the consequences of that, so that's on you. But Gabbie Hanna could not accept that, and pretty much leading to the YouTube series that is now deleted, where pretty much Gabbie Hanna promised a 12-part series from Twitter, saying she's gonna call everybody out. She got flash drives, old phones, things of that nature, only to, of course, delete it halfway through because it wasn't getting the reaction that she wanted. And she was making response videos in between chapters of her YouTube series that she was calling everybody out, and even those were getting backlash. It was just a whole thing. And then let us also not forget the responses from Gabbie Hanna's series. More specifically, and I know I'll never shut up about this because it was a great response, the Escape the Night situation where Gabbie Hanna was pretty much a diva on set, and she really thought she did nothing wrong and just thought she deserved all this treatment, deserved to have like the first interview, like deserved to have certain foods in her room, to the point where Daniel Prada would specifically go to the store just for Gabbie Hanna, which he didn't do for anybody else because everybody else was professional and, you know, was very courteous on set, except for Gabbie Hanna, which led to her getting eliminated like earlier in the show than I guess she was supposed to get eliminated. I didn't really watch Escape the Night, but from what I remember about the responses, that's how it went down. Gabbie Hanna just refused to cooperate with other people and was just nasty to pretty much everybody, calling somebody a C word on set. And I think it was like an assistant or like a production assistant calling one of them a C word. Like, you're on a YouTube production, one of like the greatest productions that YouTube has done in a while, and you kind of like shot yourself on the own foot with that, and then you're turning around blaming everybody else when everybody else on set can confirm that you were the problem and not Joey Graceffa or Daniel Prada. I think that in itself could be enough to be like, Gabbie Hanna's entitled. But let us also not forget that Gabbie Hanna was such a mental health expert that when an actual, you know, doctor, mental health expert tried to correct Gabbie Hanna on something that she was spreading out there, Gabbie Hanna pretty much said, "I'm not gonna listen to you, I know better than you." And that led all the way until Gabbie Hanna went on a mental health podcast with Farrah Abraham. Yes, that Farrah Abraham from Teen Mom. And it was a dumpster fire. Like, if you look into the comments in that video on Farrah Abraham's channel, they're not good. It was very triggering for some people that actually, you know, are going through mental health issues, using buzzwords, pretty much making a joke out of it. And of course, here we go. Of course, the Gabbie Hanna fans will be like, it's their coping mechanism. But when you go on a podcast trying to be like the front runner and like the know-all of mental health, I just think that's an issue. And that's just also an I know everything, let me show you that I know everything attitude, which is, this is more recent, and this is also something that inspired me to make this video today. I can't find the full Instagram story, but I do have a screenshot from one part, and pretty much this is because of who I am, I should be able to get this kind of treatment. And Gabbie Hanna is at a therapist, which, you know, great. Nothing to make fun of there. No jokes to be made about that. I think if you want to go to a therapist, if you want to talk about you going to a therapist, that's on you. No problem with that. What I do have a problem with is the fact that Gabbie Hanna posted about how she was late to her own session and how they were not going to let her do her session. So Gabbie Hanna proceeds to say that she's going to wait there and just see, because of who she is, that she can just get in the session. Which, I don't know what doctor office she's been to, but once you're late, they have to go to the next person. Because from what I understand about therapy, they operate on their kind of time kind of thing. Like, they can't just push everybody else back because you're late, because they do want to give you that full hour. So I think the therapist office was actually doing her a favor by not cutting her hour short, because that's ultimately what would happen. And I don't think Gabbie Hanna understood that. This whole mentality of, I'm just gonna wait here and I'm just gonna see what happens kind of attitude, I think that bothers me in terms of, you say you're a mental health advocate and things like that, so shouldn't you respect other people's times that will probably be on time for their session, and just kind of like take accountability for being late, instead of just sitting there and hoping because of your status that you can just get in. Like I said, I couldn't find the full Instagram story, but I did find that one screenshot, and it just, I think that just blew my mind. Because girl, what are you doing? Just go home. Go home. Reschedule, go home. Because you sitting there waiting, they're just probably gonna look at you and be like, girl, we can't help you right now, you gotta go. You are free to disagree with me with that. Maybe a therapist that was watching this, if you are a therapist, kind of like, if you want to correct me and tell me I'm wrong, but that's my understanding of how it works, where if you're late, and they want to give you your full hour kind of thing. So if you want to correct me, please do. I definitely could be wrong, but that's the takeaway I got from that. We have a name I'm sure you all know, and I'm sure y'all know. James Charles. So where do I begin, right? James Charles is definitely all over the place, but I will go on from what I remember as his first true "this is about me" moment. So we're on part 3, where we're gonna talk about James Charles. Now, I could go on all day about James Charles and all the issues I have with him and his whole attitude and his whole, like, spoiled attitude at that, but we're not going to talk about that today. What we're really going to talk about is, of course, his entitled attitude of, because of who I am, I deserve better kind of attitude. And for me, let's just go back to the beginning where I think it really happened, was when Instagram went through their change a couple years ago. And one, they added Instagram stories, which at the time everybody hated, but we've gotten used to it and we kind of like it now, because if you're an influencer, you can like promote something, you don't have to put it on your feed, and you don't have to worry about deleting it later because it goes away in 24 hours. So I think a lot of influencers actually like the Instagram stories thing, so we've gotten used to that. But the second thing was James Charles went on this long Instagram rant. I wish I could have found it, but I do remember that this was a thing that happened to the point where news articles were covering it. Basically, James Charles was complaining about how engagement on his page was down, on the upwards of like 3 million likes per post. Now, I do understand that, you know, if you are posting a sponsored ad post and you're not getting the engagement, you're probably not going to get as much money from that. But these were like regular posts that I think he was talking about at the time. Something I've noticed about that rant specifically from James Charles is that he was only complaining because it affected him and him alone. He really didn't talk about how, you know, smaller creators were probably affected by this. He was really talking about like how it affected him and his business and things like that. And for me, that was just kind of like, oh, here we go. Okay. And just something I remember just now, let us not forget how he was gatekeeping for the makeup community. And I know a lot of James Charles fans are about to go in the comments, and I know they are if they're listening. they're about to go in the comments and say he wasn't gatekeeping, he was just let us not forget how Alicia Keys said that she had a brand coming out, and she didn't even say it was a makeup brand, but James Charles and Manny UA, I didn't forget about him, kind of like came at Alicia Keys very hard, only for then Alicia Keys to be like, I'm not even coming out with a makeup line, it's a skincare line, where James Charles had to like backtrack really hard and be like, I wasn't trying to gatekeep, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yes, you were. Let us also not forget the other time when I think it was Lauren Conrad kind of sent a PR package and she sent the wrong one. And James Charles was like going on a rant about it, saying, you know, certain people don't need to be doing makeup brands, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't James Charles only have one makeup palette out to this day? The same amount as Shane Dawson? I'll let you sit on that. That's just something I remembered about James Charles, where there was a point in time where if anybody was coming out with like makeup anything, he would have to put his 2 cents in because he, for some reason, felt like he was like the top of the makeup community, when in all reality, you only had one palette out and you just blew up big on YouTube. Going back to the Instagram thing, I really don't think James Charles realized that the same thing with Gabbie Hanna. Like, maybe people just weren't clicking on your post anymore. And I know 3 million is probably dramatic, and maybe the algorithm did mess with it a little bit, but you also have to realize maybe just people weren't clicking. And that's like a cold, hard reality at that time, because you don't want to feel like you're falling off or feel like, you know, you're dipping in views, you're dipping in engagement, because engagement equals money. Let's just be real. So you don't want to be on that level and be like, oh my God, maybe I'm not as interesting as I thought I was. Now we're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about this in probably, we're going to try to talk about this in the most mature way possible, because we're not talking about, you know, the video itself, but just how James Charles reacted to everything. So on July 2nd, 2021, James Charles uploaded a video titled An Open Conversation. Now, for those that know, no. And for those that don't know, this video currently sits at 6,317,794 views as of me uploading this video right now, and only has 241,000 likes. Now, the YouTube dislikes count is gone because YouTube says it's protecting their creators, which they're protecting the problematic ones, but I digress. I could go on a rant about that forever, because the dislike button wasn't the problem. It was showing what the problem was, but YouTube doesn't want to admit that because, you know, never mind. I was about to say something and I was getting in trouble. Take it back. Of course, the dislikes might be on the same level as the likes or even higher, because before the dislikes went away, I did notice that the dislikes were going up, up, up. Because initially it seemed like people were really accepting of this video, but then the people that actually caught on to the video later were like, oh, no, we're not letting this slide, and then the dislikes kind of caught up. Don't know what the dislikes are at now, but I'm pretty sure they're pretty high. Pretty much, for those that don't know about this video from James Charles was pretty much trying to clear his name of all of the allegations up to this point. But if you really look into the video itself, it was just a bunch of excuses masked up in a, but I learned, so you can leave me alone now. I want to show a clip that multiple people believe that this clip of James is talking about Def Noodles, who is another commentary, newsy type of YouTube channel, kind of like Keemstar, but like the opposite of Keemstar, because Keemstar is a racist, misogynistic, sexist. And at this time, Def Noodles was not suspended on Twitter. But I'm gonna just show this clip, and once I show this clip, I'll explain more in a second.
It was basically one drama channel on Twitter that started a thread and started compiling a list of anybody that said literally anything about me on social media. And after what felt like weeks of somebody new coming forward every single day, it eventually became the 20 victims of James Charles. I am not gonna go through this list one by one because I know that nobody wants to sit here for an hour listening to me talk about this, but I do feel as though I have to say something because I am just not comfortable with this video or really any any video moving forward allowing anybody, let alone my followers, to think that there are any victims of James Charles, let alone 20 victims of James Charles, because that is completely, unequivocally not true.
So let's really talk about this. James Charles, in a way, right, is shifting blame to a singular drama channel for posting a thread of the allegations against him, thus leading to most of the hate that he got. Okay. What James never addressed in the video, and I really had to look back to fact check myself before I even said this, what James Charles never addressed himself, which he could have, is the fact that Death Noodles himself kept updating and correcting the thread itself when evidence came out or things were proven to be false. And I know what you're thinking. What about this makes James Charles entitled or elitist or whatever you want to call it, right? Well, the reason is because later in that same video, the open conversation video, James Charles talks about how people look for corrections when someone proves things aren't true. So if that's the case, how come James Charles never talked about how Death Noodles corrected his original thread multiple times and updates at that? Was it to send an indirect hate mob to a YouTuber to deflect blame? Couldn't be that. Let us also not forget, in the same video, by the way, in the same video, he says himself that there are no victims of James Charles, even though in the now infamous deleted video, taking accountability, he actually admitted to 2 incidents himself where he even said the phrase, "I apologize to the victims." Now, a lot of channels have already called that out a while ago, but I wanted to bring it up again because James Charles is surprised that he can't go on social media like he used to. He can't go in dating apps the way he wants to. And he's pretty much saying, I have to do all these steps because, people will not let this go. And I say to that, duh. Even though he's a celebrity, even though he's admitted to situations where he even said that they were true, only to then take it back, he's surprised that he can't do things normally like probably me or you can. And I'm just you get invited to all these award shows, you fly out during a panini when it was at its height and be surprised that people called you out about it. Let's not forget that. Only to then think you can go in a dating app like normal people do. It doesn't work like that. Can we also talk about how the excuse that the fans used of, well, he's young, doesn't work anymore because James Charles is past 21. And I think once you're past 21, the whole "you're young" excuse really doesn't work anymore because you're 21 and over. Sorry. You know better at this point. And let's also not forget that there are more allegations that came out after that video that, wasn't even in any thread because Death Noodles got suspended off of Twitter. These people are on TikTok posting, they're on Instagram posting about it, they're on Twitter posting more allegations against James Charles. And this whole, why do people keep bringing up my name? There is a pattern there, but for some reason James Charles doesn't want to see that pattern. He doesn't think there's a pattern there. We could go on for days about all of that, but we can't because I'm trying to keep this video short and I already know it's kind of long. Didn't mean for it to be long, but I had a lot to say, I guess, about that whole thing because I never really talked about it much except for the initial afterwards. I want to talk about another thing that inspired me to make this video today. So I showed you a clip earlier of James Charles. We're gonna watch that clip again because I do have thoughts about that clip in particular. So let me just give you the premise once again. James Charles is at an airport and basically he's saying airports are scams, which I agree, some airports do charge a lot for certain services. Listen to how he talks and then I will come back. So roll it.
Something that I simply just did not understand is how, as a society, we have agreed to just let airlines get away with scamming people. So I'm at the airport checking in for my flight as per usual, and I put my bag on the scale before checking in. She goes, ooh, sorry babe, it's 51 pounds, it's gonna be $100. I said, you can't just let it slide, please? She goes, no, sorry, it's overweight, you're gonna have to pay $100 or take something out. I said, absolutely not am I paying $100 for this. So I unzipped my bag, I removed one pair of socks, one sole pair of socks, and a straightening iron. Zip it back up, put it back on the scale, magically 49 pounds. I need my scale at home to lie to me like that because that is some. I could understand if it was like a gravity thing and they're like, oh, the bags are too heavy, so the plane is literally going to whoo, fall out of the sky. Like, obviously we don't want that to happen, but how could it be a gravity thing if the bags are still going on the plane? They're just below the plane as opposed to in the overhead compartment. It's still equally as heavy. It's not gonna tip over. Like, what the
There's a lot to unpack here because like I've said earlier, I've watched airplane documentaries and I kind of know a little bit about like weight distribution and things like that. And there were actually people in the comments on this TikTok trying to educate James Charles about why this happens, or like, you know, pretty much saying it's $100, you can't afford $100, which I will say, I mean, $100 is a bit much. But if you really think about it this way. Like the people that work and put your stuff under the plane, they have like a maximum weight requirement of them doing something. For some airlines, not all of them, hear me out. So if anything is like overweight, they have to accommodate for that extra weight, which requires extra work. So if they're doing extra work to put your luggage on a plane, they should be compensated in some way for that. Because if you really think about it, if there was no charging for any overweight packages, then people would just bring any and everything on a plane to the point where the plane might not be able to lift off. Now, I know that's like a super, super dramatic, like, everybody's gonna be an a-hole kind of thing, but let's really think about it. Like just recently, I'm not really gonna get into it because I'm not trying to make this like a political thing or anything. Recently, the mask mandate has been lifted for a lot of airlines, and I think it happened yesterday, to the point where people were recording videos of themselves taking the mask off, kind of like celebrating. There were stewardesses on a plane singing, telling people to throw their mask away because they don't need them anymore, kind of celebrating it. And we live in a society where we do something until we're told we can't do it. Does this make sense? Because all those people that were celebrating wearing a mask, celebrating taking the mask off, were pretty much saying, I'm only doing this because I was told to, not because I care. Does that make sense? The weight thing with James Charles's luggage, right? There's a reason why they have to put a limit on how much you can put in your packages. Because I think, and I could be wrong, this is just a theory, I think this is reactionary to probably people putting too much weight on a plane a couple times in the past, and the FAA, I think it's the FAA, whoever controls like the airline laws kind of thing, pretty much said we have to either charge people for this and let the airlines decide how much they charge, or like they can't bring it on the plane at all. And I think that's what the consensus was. And again, you really have to think about it in the way of the worker that puts your stuff on the plane, because I think somebody pointed out in the comments, like they are only allowed to do like 50 pounds max, or like they have a max requirement that they can lift, and anything extra is an insurance like issue. I don't think James Charles understood that. A lot of weight on the bottom of a plane can be an issue. That's why they distribute weight evenly on the bottom so there's no issues. So I think that's also another reason why, you know, they make sure your stuff isn't too heavy. $100 is a bit much, I will say that. But at the end of the day, you can't really expect special treatment because of who you are and just say, well, can you just let it go this one time? Because I think anybody that works in retail, restaurants, things like that, understand that if it's one time, it's going to happen next time. And they would just want to avoid that altogether. So that's why they say no initially. And the fact that James Charles just was so upset about something that was such a simple, hey, maybe pack lighter next time. I know me, I don't pack heavy on purpose because I like to buy stuff when I go vacationing or anything like that. And my bag always comes back heavier. And also, what is in his bag that is like 50 something pounds? Like makeup, yes. Clothes, yes. Curling iron, I think he said curling iron in his video. I'm trying to think of how much stuff you need to put in a suitcase to equal 50 something pounds, because I'm really having a hard time. Also, why not just carry more than one suitcase if that was an issue, or you even thought that was gonna be an issue, you know? I don't know, I just think there was a lot of solutions that he wasn't seeing that a lot of people were giving him, and he just wasn't listening because he thought he was right and thought, you know, because of who he is, he deserved that special treatment. Sorry, that's a no for me. But that's definitely one of the most recent events of James Charles that, you know, stuck out to me and inspired me to make this whole video. And I just thought it was a lot. I really thought it was a lot. The last person I want to talk about today it's like a few months old, but I still want to talk about it because the level of entitlement of this person, like if you combine the Ace family, Gabbie, Hanna, and James Charles into one, this person's entitlement is still higher. And of course, we're going to talk about Creepshow Art. Now, I'm not going over everything again, but I do want to point out some things. Let's really talk about Creepshow Art. So, we're in the last part. Creepshow Art. I have so many things that I could say that I feel like I didn't say in my 3-part series. But if you haven't seen that 3-part series, I suggest you watch it because I'm about to reference a lot of things from that series that just stuck out to me as very much, how dare I be in this situation, I deserve better kind of attitude, which is nice. So can we just talk about how Creepshow Art wanted to be the victim so bad? And I really do mean so bad. To the point where she was trying to drag any and everyone down with her, and we all know that it didn't work. It obviously failed in the end because the only one that lost was Creepshow Art. And I think what gets me the most is about Creepshow Art's attitude is that she was using half-truths to the point to her side being right and just never being in the wrong. And of course, Emily Artful debunked all of that and pretty much shut it all down, which if you haven't seen Emily Artful's final rebuttal to Creepshow Art, I suggest you do because oh man. Not to mention that she took every chance to invalidate Emily Artful's story, even though she wasn't there. And the whole "you owe me" attitude to all the creators she called out, pretty much, I think she said, you know, tipster, how dare you, I was a friend to you, how dare you call me out, telling YouTubers that, you know, I gave you all this money, how dare you call me out, and just pretty much, it's like a broken record. It's pretty much, how dare you call me out even though I did good for you. It was just so, like, looking back at it, Creepshow Art is a Karen in a YouTuber's body. And it just, And again, the whole "you owe me" attitude to every content creator she called out, and her unedited script screams entitlement to the highest heavens. Like, not even Snoop Dogg could reach that high. And if you get that joke, good job. And if you don't, well. Also, the multiple upon multiple times Creepshow Art spoke on her husband's behalf because she refused to let anyone in her camp come out to be wrong in the end. I think that's beyond me, you know what I'm saying? Where I don't think Creepshow Art could just understand that one, Anthony was going to cheat on her, which he did. She doesn't want to accept that. And just the whole Emily is out to get us attitude, which we're not going down that rabbit hole again, I promise. So don't worry. But just the whole attitude with that situation alone just kind of showed me who Creepshow Art is, if that makes sense. And when you can never accept you did anything wrong and constantly think your side is correct, nothing will change in the end. And I think that's the scariest part about it all. And that's the end of my notes, but I wanted to talk about, I just want to rant about some things that I probably missed. Again, the whole unedited script itself, it was just like, I don't know. I think that bothered me more than anything else. Even saying, pretty much trying to say Emily's story wasn't true because of all this evidence. And then telling people that supported her that they're weird for supporting her. So some people were commenting on my video saying that when Creepshow Art said that, she didn't mean it in a way that was like insulting to like people that supported her, but she is saying that, you know, if you turned on her now, that's kind of weird and you can get the F. And the whole touch grass thing, like the whole video was very much, I'm right, you're wrong, deal with it. And to me, that just shows how entitled she was in the end. And I'm so glad that the community, the whole YouTube community itself just saw through that and did not let it slide. So I'm very happy about that. What are things that I missed about Creepshow Art? The fact that most of, not all these creators that I've talked about just will never take accountability for anything they did wrong. Like, I'm still waiting on Jesse Smiles to get that apology, Gabbie, Hanna. I'm still waiting on James Charles to correct himself once again and be like, well, I did say I had victims, but he's never gonna do that because I think his PR team was like, dog, you have to delete that video because that's bad. The AIDS family will never admit that they're scammers because who in the right mind is going to admit they're a scammer? Except people that like are savage AF. Like I said, I could have gone on about the TikTok people because, oh my God. Also, let's just talk about a little bit. I'm just gonna talk, let's talk about it. Men with podcasts. I don't need to say anymore. They're the most entitled people I've ever seen. If you know, you know. Don't really need to go into much detail about that. What else did I miss? I mean, there are a lot of other content creators, Trisha Paytas especially, Ethan Klein, especially recently, and I was gonna do a video about this, and let me know if you want me to still do a video about this. YouTube fans as a whole are in some way entitled, and I'm not talking about every fan. I'm talking about the stans. Stans and fans have definitely have that thin line, but there is a difference. Stan is definitely someone that will just defend you to the end, and a fan is just someone that, you know, is a fan of you, but also will realize when you did something wrong, they can walk away. But the super stans, those people, ooh, one day we're gonna talk about it, but today's not that day. So in conclusion, my friends, entitlement is just a really fancy word of saying you're a jet. I was about to cuss, call myself. Let's say entitlement is one way of saying they're a donkey. If you get that joke, you're welcome. If you don't, you're welcome. So, in conclusion, I miss you guys. Hope you're well. I really hope you're well. I could have talked way more about a lot more people, but these were like the main four I wanted to talk about because they're different in their own way. I also let you guys vote on this video, and this was top voted both on Twitter and YouTube, so you definitely wanted to hear about this. If you want me to rant about more people that are entitled, you can give me some names down below, because I can go on a rant about everybody that, you know, I see an issue with. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have in conclusion. I miss you guys. Sorry I've been gone so long. I will explain that soon. But nevertheless, it feels good to be back. So once again, it is Malcolm. That's me. I have a lovely subscription button up here. I have 2 other videos over there for your own free time. Without further ado, I wish you well, I wish you good health, and I will see you again next time.